Welcome to my channel. Subscribe, listen and enjoy my stories every day. It was a crisp autumn morning when I entered the bustling halls of Little Explorer's kindergarten. Today was Parent Day, a time when children showcased their creativity with crayons and innocent tales. I was eager to see my son, Jamie, and his latest masterpiece. The scent of fresh paint and the chatter of excited children filled the air as parents mingled and admired the artwork pinned to the makeshift galleries of classroom walls. In Jamie's classroom, his teacher, Mrs. Allen, welcomed us with a bright smile. "Feel free to look around. The children have worked very hard on their drawings," she announced proudly. As I approached the wall where Jamie's drawings were displayed, my heart swelled with pride. There, amidst a sea of colorful paper, was his drawing, noticeably bold and peculiar. The picture depicted two figures, a woman with hair like molten gold, undoubtedly his mom, my wife, Sarah, and beside her, a man with a broad smile and dark, wavy hair, labeled "Nice Uncle." My brow furrowed slightly at this unfamiliar character. Confused, I knelt beside Jamie, who was grinning up at me. "Hey buddy, this is a great drawing. But I have to ask, who's this nice uncle?" I questioned lightly, masking the concern in my voice. Jamie's eyes sparkled with innocence as he replied, "That's Mom's friend. He comes to play when you go to take pictures." The room seemed to spin slightly as his words sank in. "Does he come over a lot?" I managed to ask, my voice steady despite the turmoil inside. He's really funny. He makes Mommy laugh a lot," Jamie added cheerfully, oblivious to the storm brewing in my heart. Thanking him, I stood up and scanned the room for Sarah, spotting her chatting with another parent across the room. Her laughter rang clear, carefree and happy. Something inside me twisted. The image of the nice uncle burned in my mind, a stark contrast to the festive atmosphere of the day. As the event concluded, I kept my thoughts to myself. Back home, I mulled over everything, the seed of doubt growing uncontrollably. After Jamie was tucked in bed, I confronted Sarah. Her initial shock at my questioning turned to defiance as the truth spilled out in a heated confession. The revelation shattered the illusion of our perfect life. Betrayed and heartbroken, I made a decision that night. Sarah begged for forgiveness, tears streaming down her face, but the image of that drawing, that nice uncle, had etched itself permanently in my mind. I filed for divorce the following week. The process was quick, the fallout, immense. I severed ties completely, ensuring Jamie's well-being throughout but never saw Sarah again after the papers were signed. As the dust settled, a plan began to form in my mind. Not just for retribution, but for a fresh start away from the shadows of betrayal. I would rebuild, for Jamie and for myself. But first, I needed to ensure that such deceit never darkened our lives again. The intrigue of betrayal had opened a path I never intended to walk, but now, I was committed to exploring its every dark corner. The days following the divorce were a blur of emotions and paperwork. But amidst the chaos, a clear plan had started to crystallize. If Sarah had chosen to bring a stranger into our life, into our home, then I needed to know everything about him. It was time for action, not just to satiate my craving for retribution but to protect my son from any further harm. I started with the basics. A few discreet inquiries and a couple of well-placed favors soon had me staring at a dossier on Mark Thompson, the nice uncle from Jamie's drawing. An unassuming middle management type during the day, with no obvious signs of the duplicity that had disrupted my family. With the information in hand, I set out one evening under the guise of a photo shoot, driving instead to Mark's neighborhood. The area was upscale, a stark contrast to the humble surroundings of our family home. Parking a block away, I walked towards his house, my camera bag slung over my shoulder, not with a camera, but with a different kind of equipment. My heart pounded not just from the walk but from the adrenaline of the impending confrontation. As I approached, the house loomed large and well-lit. I could see silhouettes moving behind the curtains. Taking a deep breath, I rang the doorbell. Moments later, Mark answered. His face registered surprise, then wariness. "Can I help you?" he asked, his voice cautious. "Yes, I think you can, Mark. I'm Sarah's husband, well, ex-husband now thanks to you," I said, the words laced with a cold calmness. Mark paled, his eyes darting around nervously. "Look, I don't know what Sarah told you, but I'm not here to discuss Sarah. I'm here about Jamie, my son. The one you've been playing uncle to." I cut him off, stepping closer. The door remained ajar, an invisible boundary between us. He swallowed, then invited me in with a reluctant gesture. The inside of his house was as immaculate as the exterior, a sharp reflection of his life's order that he had disrupted in mine. "I didn't mean to. I'm not interested in intentions, Mark. You crossed a line. Now, I want to know what you're going to do to make this right. If you have any respect left, you'll keep away from Jamie. He doesn't need another uncle," I stated firmly. Mark nodded, his confidence deflating like a punctured balloon. "You have my word. I won't see Sarah or Jamie again." Satisfied but not appeased, I turned to leave, then paused. "If I find you near my son again, the next conversation won't be as civil." Leaving Mark's house, the cool night air felt sharper. The initial step in my plan was set, but it was just the beginning. As I drove back home, the city lights blurred past, each one igniting a spark for the next phase of my plan. The deceit had been exposed, and retribution had begun, but the path of revenge was long and winding. I knew I had to tread carefully, balancing between the thirst for justice and the welfare of my son. Back home, I looked in on Jamie, sleeping peacefully, unaware of the storms outside his dreams. I vowed again, no matter the cost, I would protect him. The quest for retribution was not just about punishment, it was about safeguarding the future. As the night deepened, so did my resolve. The plan was in motion, and there was no turning back. The days turned into weeks, and while the external calm belied the storms within, my plan for retribution quietly gathered momentum. Jamie remained oblivious, his laughter a balm to the bitterness that often threatened to overwhelm me. I ensured his routine stayed unchanged, a fortress of normalcy amidst the chaos. One afternoon, while Jamie was at a friend's birthday party, I ventured into a part of the city I rarely visited. A dimly lit cafe on a quiet street corner was the meeting point. I had contacted a private investigator after realizing that ensuring Mark kept his word required vigilance. The man sitting across from me, John, was an old acquaintance with a reputation for discretion and efficiency. "Everything set up. We've got surveillance on his house and office. Any particular patterns or details you need?" John asked, his voice low as he slid a folder across the table towards me. "Just keep track of his interactions with Sarah, if any." "I want to know if he breaks his promise," I replied, my fingers tapping a rhythmic beat on the table, betraying my inner turmoil. John nodded, jotting down notes. "You'll get daily updates. We can also dig deeper into his background if you want, see if there's anything else hidden there." I paused, considering. "Do it. Anything that can tell me more about the kind of man he is." The meeting was brief. After setting everything in motion, I left the cafe with a sense of doing something concrete. The shadows I now operated in felt both alien and eerily fitting, as if this undercurrent of stealth and surveillance was just another layer of the new reality Sarah's betrayal had thrust upon me. Several days later, John's first report came through via a secure email. Mark had kept a low profile, with no signs of contact with Sarah. But the deeper background check revealed unsettling news. Mark was known in certain circles for his flirtatious behavior and had a history of short-lived romantic entanglements with attached women. It painted a picture of a man who thrived on secrecy and the thrill of the forbidden. Armed with this information, the next step of my plan took shape. If Mark thrived in the shadows, I'd drag him into the light. I needed a way to expose his character publicly, to show his colleagues, his friends, the kind of man he truly was. It wasn't just about revenge anymore, it was about justice, about protecting others from his deceit. I arranged for an anonymous tip to be sent to his workplace, hinting at an internal investigation into inappropriate behavior. The ripple effect was immediate and satisfying. Rumors started, whispered in the corners of his office corridors, shadows under which Mark now found himself scrutinized. Through John's updates, I learned that Mark's demeanor at work had changed. He became cautious, his usual charm subdued by the weight of whispered judgments. It wasn't long before his professional image began to suffer, a mirror to the personal facade he had so carelessly shattered. Sitting at home one evening, flipping through old photos of Sarah and Jamie, I contemplated the path I had chosen. The photos, once symbols of happiness, now served as stark reminders of betrayal. Yet, there was no joy in Mark's downfall. The satisfaction was purely Pyrrhic, the victories hollow against the backdrop of broken trust. As Jamie returned home, his bright chatter pierced the somber reflections. His resilience, his unbridled joy, rekindled a spark of hope within me. This fight wasn't just for retribution, it was a crusade for the innocence that remained in my son's laughter. As I put Jamie to bed that night, I whispered a promise, more to myself than to him. "We'll get through this, buddy. We'll make it right." The journey was far from over, but every step, every action, was a paving stone on the path to a new beginning. The autumn leaves had given way to the stark bareness of early winter when the final act of my plan unfolded. The weeks of surveillance and subtle manipulations had painted a clear picture of Mark as a habitual deceiver. Now, armed with undeniable proof and a simmering rage, I was ready to confront the full breadth of the betrayal. It was a frosty Thursday evening when I invited Sarah to meet at a quiet, secluded park, a place that once held memories of family picnics and laughter. Now, it was to be the stage for revelations and endings. As she approached, wrapped in a thick coat, her eyes wary, I noted the apprehension in her steps. "Sarah, we need to settle this once and for all," I began, my voice calm but icy. "What is this about?" "I thought we were done with all the formalities of the divorce," she replied, a tremor in her voice. "It's about closure. Not just legal, but personal. I know about Mark, his history, his games. And I made sure his deceit is out in the open, at his workplace, his social circles," I revealed, watching her closely. Sarah's face paled, her eyes widening in shock. "You did what? Why can't you just let it go?" "Let it go? Like you let go of our vows?" "No, Sarah, this ends today, but it ends with the truth." As the confrontation escalated, another figure approached, Mark, looking haggard, his eyes darting nervously between us. He stopped a few feet away, his stance defensive. "I told you to stay away from him," I addressed Mark, my voice sharp as a blade. "I didn't know he was going to be here, I swear," Sarah protested, her voice cracking. Mark finally spoke, "I'm sorry, I never meant for things to go this far. I've lost everything, my job, my friends, because of the rumors." "Rumors?" "No, Mark. Consequences of your actions. And now, you face them," I said sternly. In that moment, the final piece of my plan was revealed. From the shadows stepped John, not just a private investigator, but also a long-standing friend, holding a camera. He had captured every confession, every admission of guilt. It was all recorded, ready to be handed over to any who doubted the truth. Sarah and Mark stood frozen, the reality of their situation sinking in. There was no violence, no physical retribution, just the cold, hard truth laid bare for them to face. "I'm done here. You both will never see me or Jamie again. Consider this my final goodbye. My lawyer will contact you with the details of the recordings and their legal implications," I concluded, turning away from the ruins of what once was my life. As I walked away, the crisp winter air felt like the first clean breath in months. There was no joy in this revenge, only a solemn satisfaction of justice and protection. For Jamie, and for myself, This was the closing of a painful chapter. The path ahead was uncertain and undoubtedly filled with challenges, but as the park faded behind me, the weight of betrayal and deceit lifted, replaced by a resolve to rebuild, to find new horizons free from the shadows of the past.